I look back at 2020 and see that he provided everything I needed just when I needed it. And so for now, I'm looking to the future and realizing that God was faithful then and he's going to be faithful now. I don't have to worry about a thing. Like, I just have to trust him. So yeah, it's just the past of God's faithfulness definitely helps me not to worry in this place that I'm in now.
Between the Grooves is hosted by James Curtis, music director and morning man in the Greater Toronto Area on Joy Radio, and Drew Brown, Juno-nominated singer-songwriter and worship leader. Both hope to share insights into Christian music, exploring ministry, message, and everything in between. You can connect with the show at faithstrongtoday.com/betweenthegrooves or via Twitter @betweengrooves. Now, here's James and Drew.
We are back. James Curtis here.
Backstreet's back.
That's right.
Sorry.
There's a throwback for you. There's a throwback. Sorry, if you didn't understand that, folks, then you need to listen back to your, I guess, 90s music, right? Or right. Early 90s, I think?
I don't even know.
Yeah.
Whatever. 90s.
I'll guess.
Yeah, close enough.
I'll guess. So listen to all the music from the 90s, and then you'll figure out what we're talking about. And when you come back, just hit pause on this podcast and then continue playing once you've had a listen.
That's right.
There you go. Welcome to Between the Grooves. James Curtis here, along with my buddy Drew Brown.
Hey, hey, hey.
I guess we should let everyone know the fact that we've got a great guest on the show today.
We do.
This is somebody that was on the podcast right in the genesis of this podcast. Yeah. Really, in the first few months, we chatted with Hannah Kerr, and what a pleasant, fun person to hang out with. And we're going to get to that conversation in just a bit. She has had a lot of changes in her life over the last year, as many people have, but we'll hear from her in particular what has changed for her, and of course, adapting with her career and her family life and whatnot, and just really trusting God. Just a timely message from her and a fun conversation to be a part of. We're going to get to that in just a bit. But before we do, just wanted to mention, Drew, I ran into this article recently about the Grammys. They're making some changes on the way voting happens with their members. They are, number one, they're going to be eliminating secret committees for the big four category nominations. Of course, Album of the Year, Song of the Year, Record of the Year, and Best New Artist. And then they're going a route that perhaps is a little odd, I suppose, because it's going to mean it's a lot of work. They previously, the Grammy nominations were finalized by between 50 and 30 music industry peers representing their genre community. So people that know about and are familiar with their particular genres. Very similar to what the Juno Awards has been doing for years and years. I've been a Juno judge for a number of years. And what happens there is they will have up to 10 judges per category. And so for me, it was the Christian Contemporary Gospel category. And there's going to be 9 other judges, but I don't know who they are. And you take a list of say anywhere between 35 and 60 submissions into that category, and then you whittle it down so then you can have a smaller vote later on in a few months' time. And all the other judges do the same. And most of the artists I'd be familiar with, some I'm not. So you're going to listen to some of this music, but it is a bit of work. First, especially the first round, there's a lot of work to listen to the various songs and albums that are being submitted. And then from there, we have a final vote, to be, here's the top 10, give us your first pick, first, second, and third pick. It's kind of the way it's being done. And then all the main categories are still judged or voted on by everybody that's a part of the Junos. And by everybody,
right.
The Junos is put together by an organization called Charis. And so if you're a member of Charis, one of your rights as a member is to vote for all the main categories. And that's how they handle things from year to year, which is, to me, is a pretty fair way of doing it. And it, keeps the workload down for most of the members. It almost seems a little odd that the Grammys are going this route where they're going to have a final pool of nominees for nearly all the Grammy Awards decided on by a majority vote of Academy voting members.
Wait, I'm confused. They're going to have pretty much, for the majority, of these categories, like everybody can vote.
Well,
almost everybody can vote.
It sounds that way. The way that's the way it sounds. The way they're moving. They've got a total of 86 categories now. So I guess members now maybe you can, as a member, now I'm not in the States, but maybe as a member, you can choose to withdraw from certain categories if you're unfamiliar with it. You can do that with the Junos now anyways.
Hopefully,
right?
yeah.
Right?
That's
so,
right. That's right.
But yeah,
Yep.
I mean, that's a lot of listening. That's a lot of, hopefully not a popularity contest,
Well, I mean.
That never happens. That never happens.
Yeah. I was like, I'm not going to say anything, but yeah, exactly.
So that will be a big change for the 64th Annual Grammy Awards, which is scheduled to take place in January of 2022. A lot more work, I suppose, for their voting members to vote for all these different categories. Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
Wow.
So, yeah. I know, I mean, I think the way the Junos have been done is a great way to vote for them because it takes a while to vote. As a member, it takes a long time, even to vote for the main categories. It takes a good, a chunk of your time to go listening and to vote, and hopefully you're familiar with the category. For some of the stuff that I voted for in the past, I might just decide, you know what, I'm not going to vote in this category because I'm unfamiliar with it, which is fair.
Right.
And that would knock down some time, but still a bit of time to vote for these things. Now in the Grammy Awards, I guess there's going to be more stuff to vote for, and it's just going to take you longer to do. Wow. I suppose you get a more fair vote as long as you're familiar with that genre.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's interesting news. Interesting. They've added a couple of categories as well. So, yeah, interesting. Anyways, with that said and done, it is time to get to our conversation with Hannah Kerr. And as we mentioned earlier, we're going to catch up a little bit with her, see what's been up with her in her life, and some nice changes in her life, but certainly it's been a different year for her as well. Let's get between the grooves with Hannah Kerr. Time we chatted with you on this show.
Man, it was a while ago.
4 years ago?
Yeah,
Would that be about right?
Been a minute.
Yeah. And,
yeah.
Out of everyone that we've chatted, so we're in close to 200 episodes now, if not over by now.
Wow.
In all the conversations we've had, if there was one interview that went to the podcast world and then we lost the original audio, that would be you.
No way.
Yeah, I'm serious. Like, out of everybody that we don't know what happened to it. The original audio file disappeared. We've tried looking back in the archives. Who knows where it went? I mean, it's still aired and everything else, and it's still out there. But the raw content is gone. We have no idea where it went. So
it just disappeared.
Disappeared.
Said, nope.
Yeah. And I guess
That's crazy.
This whole thing came down because the general manager of our podcast network and our radio station, or actually now he's the president, met you at Kingdom Bound in Buffalo.
Yeah.
And from there, we, had conversations and we were able to get you onto the show. And the thing I got to ask you from the front end, is your dad still doing the Black River Entertainment thing?
Yes, he is.
So can I say, wow, like that company has grown.
Yeah, it's been really crazy. I feel like God has really blessed Black River and just, my dad has been such a great leader of the company and it's been amazing. I feel like he's just hired people that are really amazing at their job and know exactly what they're doing. And then he's such a great motivator and dreamer and leader. So it's been really cool to watch how it's just kind of grown and I'm happy to just be a witness to it. It's been awesome.
You were the first Christian artist signed to that label, correct?
I was, yes.
And now there's a bunch of Christian artists. We had Maddie Mullins on recently, and of course he's with you guys as well. So would you ever collaborate with Maddie? Two different styles of music.
I totally would. Yes.
Two totally different styles.
So cool. The fact that he does heavy metal, but then also does Christian pop radio. It's just what can the man not do?
Yeah,
exactly.
It's amazing.
And did you know that he has?
Here we go.
Did you know that he has a hair product line?
What?
Did you know that? Yeah, that's the one thing we discovered in our conversation with him. And
Seriously?
not that it would help
crazy.
Drew, because Drew doesn't have any hair, but he's got the beard thing going. So you could use the beard
oil,
stuff.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've got a sparse head of hair, but I'll take what I can get, right? So yeah, that was it.
We're gonna try and get sponsored and all that stuff. We'll be influencers.
Yeah.
Hey,
You'll be influencers.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I think he also has some kind of partnership with Traeger Grills. Like he
does. That's
meat delivered to him or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? I just have never met somebody with so many fun facts. Like
he likes to barbecue, doesn't he?
He loves to barbecue. The man loves good barbecue.
I'm going to his place. I'm telling you.
No doubt.
Because he's perfected it. That's for sure.
I'm halfway
there.
He
has.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive. I don't have anything interesting like that. So this is going to be a boring podcast.
No, not at all. I mean, what's interesting about you is you got married during a pandemic, and that's a big thing right there. Like, who gets married during a pandemic? You can't have the big fanfare that you would normally get.
I know. It really was so crazy. Like, I think the lockdown happened maybe a week or 2 weeks before our wedding date. And it's so funny because my brother Josh, he got married a month before us and had his normal wedding, completely normal. Like everybody was there. All our family traveled from New York. And it was just so crazy that 3 weeks or a month after that, everything was so different in the world.
It's true.
Wow.
I went to an online wedding a couple of months ago. It was my nephew getting married. They actually pushed up their wedding because they figured, you know what, nothing was going to change as far as lockdown and restrictions and everything else. So they just figured, you know what, we're just going to make it earlier because they already had a place that they had rent on and that they were going to be moving into and stuff. And can I say, and I don't know if I ever told you this, Drew, but my wife said that was the best wedding we've ever attended. And and the reason why is because it was over the lunch hour. So I'm chowing down on lunch. Yeah. Secondly, we didn't have to get changed. We didn't have to drive anywhere. Like just track pants, whatever, just wearing your pajamas, whatever. You're just sitting there and just watching and 20 minutes later, it's done. It was awesome.
Yep.
Hallelujah.
That kind of is great. I mean, honestly, on the other side of it, like being the one who did a wedding in the pandemic, we kind of thought it was better too. Like just even better than we could have planned because we had our ceremony with 10 people there.
Yeah.
And then we just left. We got to our hotel at like 6. It was the easiest, most like peaceful, beautiful day. And we didn't have to worry about saying hello to 200 people. Like,
right? Yeah.
It was honestly really sweet and obviously very different than we thought it would be. But looking back, I don't know that if I had to choose, I would do it any differently.
I guess it would be cost effective too because you don't have to worry about the reception. So, I mean, can I say weddings cost a lot of money? They really do.
They really do.
Yeah, they do.
It's crazy.
So, I mean, you could months later, like 2 years later, have some kind. That's what one of my brothers did once when he eloped with his wife. Mm-hmm. Now, I went to the wedding. I got a phone call a week before saying, "Oh, are we still getting together for lunch next week? And by the way, can you come an hour early for the wedding?" That's how I kind of found out about it. And he needed me there as a witness. So, we showed up for the wedding, had lunch and everything else afterwards. My parents basically pretty ticked off that they weren't invited, but they were in a different part of the country. Like they were literally right across the country and they wouldn't have been able to come last minute anyways. But what they did with him is a month or two later, they had what they called a homecoming party. And that was kind of like what the wedding reception would have been, right? So you have all these people, but they're already married at that point and less stress because of that.
Totally.
And they got everybody else to do the work. So they just kind of showed up. It was awesome.
Perfect.
That's pretty much exactly what we did. We had our reception 3 weeks ago, actually.
Okay.
So we got married last year in 2020, and then we were supposed to have our reception in September, so it'd be about 6 months after our wedding. And obviously it was still really locked down and everything at that point. So we ended up moving it again to be like a anniversary party.
Oh, nice. Nice.
So we still had everybody come that was going to come, and we just like wore masks and socially distanced. And it was, it was what it was, but it really was great too. Like there was no pressure. There was no like nerves. It was just a really sweet day. And I was worried it would feel weird because we had already been married for a year, but I wore my dress. He wore his tux. All our friends wore their, wedding party attire. And it was great. It was so fun. And I feel like we wouldn't change it now looking back. It was just so sweet and so perfect.
Big life events can be stressful. So certainly having it a year later and not having that stress.
Yeah.
I will say this. When I got married, and of course that was a number of years ago now, the one thing I learned, because I'd been involved in a number of weddings. I used to do audio for the wedding ceremonies. So I saw the headaches. I saw the things that could possibly go wrong. So I wanted to make sure that everything was seamless. And for the most part, it was. And what I did, and people laugh about this, but what I did is for the wedding party, I gave them job descriptions. I literally wrote out job descriptions, and this is what my expectations, and they all had different job descriptions. I had one guy that was responsible for putting the flowers, the centerpieces on the tables at the reception before the reception started, had somebody else, responsible for, different aspects of the wedding. And they all did their jobs. They performed phenomenally. But the reason why I did that is because I didn't want the stress of having to run around before the wedding started, or even between the wedding and the reception of doing all that stuff. So it made it less stressful for me as well. So for
that's
people,
that's really smart.
Yeah, it sounds very rigid and regulatory, if you want to call it that, but it worked.
No, it worked. That would give me peace. If someone was like, "This is your job. This is what you have to do to make it go well," I'd be like, "Okay, I got this. This is my one thing."
So before the wedding started for me, I remember I just walked around and just like a boss at a big company. I just walked around and made sure everybody was working. Like everybody was doing their part,
awesome.
And I just left it to them. Like obviously I could be a perfectionist at times. So I could have walked around and said, no, do this, do this, this. No, they already knew their job descriptions. I let them do it. And I just, I just kind of paced because I was waiting for my wife to show, or my future wife to show. And despite all my planning, she was still like 10 minutes late. So it's just really, really frustrating.
Gosh. Oh man.
Oh my goodness. That's amazing.
I really
everybody did their job except my wife.
That's right. Yeah.
I'll blame the limo driver. I'll blame anybody but her. Because if I blame her,
of course,
I won't hear the end of it.
Hannah, I was wondering. This whole pandemonium is crazy for everybody. What is life like for you during these pandemic months? Almost, in a year and a bit. What is it like for you being an artist?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. I feel like all across the music industry, we've had to be creative about how to still connect with people, because usually we just, jump out on the road and meet people every night. And it's definitely been really different. I think in my case, I feel really blessed because like Jason and I had just gotten married. So the fact that we had a full year to just be at home together and enjoy being married and like get to know each other and squash all the petty arguments about living together. Like it seriously has been such a blessing for us to be together all this time. We had planned in about a month to be home, and then we were going to jump back on the road if things were normal. But kind of looking back, just thinking about what a great year we've had together, I'm like, this has been really awesome. And I think God, in our case, has really made beauty out of something that has been hard. So we've done a lot of Zoom. I feel like I need to start paying Zoom royalties or something, because there's been so many things that I've done this year, like Zoom concerts and Zoom hangouts, and I've Zoomed into conferences and youth groups. And it's just crazy how much I've used Zoom, especially with songwriting and everything. Like I think I've written 50 songs this year, and most of them have been over Zoom. So without that technology, I don't know what we would have done to keep creating and keep doing what we do. So yeah, it's been a lot of just being at home, doing things virtually and trying to just enjoy the time of rest that we've had. But definitely ready to, get life going again. Another thing too was I really enjoy leading worship. That's just where my heart is. Being at home and leading worship with my church family, it's so special. And so during the pandemic, obviously we were all online for church, but I still got to go into church and lead worship almost every week. And that really helped me through the pandemic because I feel like I was able to see people I love and still do what I love. And obviously worship God and serve my church. But it kept me from staying at home 24/7. Like I was glad I was able to get out once a week and record the service for Sunday. And that really blessed me in 2020. Now we're back in person here in Nashville for church, but that was such a bright spot in this year of being able to just go to church and see my church family masked up and everything, but still able to serve and do what I love in person. So it was great.
There's something to be said about what people have done over the course of the pandemic, because, on one side, you could look at it, say, it's really negative and it's really bad and it's really, frustrating because I can't do what I do. Maybe you can't go into work and so you've got to work from home, or, the scenario where a lot of people are caught with young children. And so they're trying to do work at home and deal with kids, especially young kids.
Bless those parents.
Yeah.
That
and so
crazy.
A lot of frustration, a lot of, emotional ups and downs, a lot of stress, and a lot of, mental issues, if you want to call it that. But looking at things and trying to see the light at the end of the tunnel and look at the bright spots and utilizing that time. And so when, like, I know I've got a neighbor with young kids and she's a nurse. And so she, has to boot out for work. She and her husband were able to work out their schedule where at least one of them would be home with the kids, especially for the online learning. But can I tell you, when he gets home from work, she's gone. Like she's had enough, right? She loves going into work because it's a break, or she loves just getting out and going for a walk because now she's free in a sense,
Yes.
So there's been a lot of negative stuff over the course of the year, but there's hearing your scenario as far as, spending the several months with your husband, your new husband.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be awesome. That'd be like the honeymoon hasn't ended. We get to hang out for
that's what we were saying.
Longer.
Like, it's been a year of just like our honeymoon has never ended. It was so, so great. And I feel like throughout the pandemic, like we really were fortunate and just like blessed to be together, but we really spent a lot of time thinking about people who had it a lot harder during the pandemic. I mean, we have a lot of single friends and people who live alone, and we tried to make sure we had like Zoom game nights and just things to connect with people who didn't have somebody to spend quarantine with, or people who had a lot of people to spend quarantine with and were ready to get out of there.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I do feel like we were blessed to be able to have the situation that we had. And I'm so glad we still got married, because we almost thought about just like pushing it until after the pandemic was over. But I'm so glad we didn't, because we were able to be together. But yeah, I think everyone, good or bad, however your quarantine was or is, I think we're all going to be thankful for when it's over and life returns to some sort of normalcy.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I know.
I'm looking forward to just hopping in my car with the family and, going to the beach or going to a show or something that, we haven't been able to see, that this in-person stuff, right? That this, socializing. I'd like to go to my friend's place. He's an hour away. Just get together and sit in his backyard, for a few hours just because I can, instead of either trying to do it, without anybody seeing or not being able to do it. And he's not a telephone guy. He's not a Zoom guy. He's a face-to-face type guy. And there's people like that. And I got to say, your comment about the single people is so true too. Like my mom, she's a widower. Yeah. Widow. She's a widow.
Widow.
Yeah, sorry.
Widow.
Getting my he, she, him, her type thing.
Yeah. You're good.
So she's a widow and she's by herself and she lives about an hour away from us. And like the stuff that she has to go through because, she's older. So it's not as safe for her to be out. And she's just dying for that face-to-face contact. Like you can hear it in your voice. And when you do see her face-to-face, it's like you can see it in her eyes that she's just like dying to see people face-to-face. And so people like that, single people, number one. And also I think I feel bad mostly for single, particularly older single people and those parents of young children. Like those people have got the work cut out for them.
Yes,
those
they
single
sure do.
single parents of young children too.
Oh,
That's a whole other thing altogether.
Yeah.
God bless them. Just a special prayer of blessing for all those people right now.
Yeah.
There it is. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, I'm crying out for going to concerts and playing concerts. I can't wait. My gosh.
I know. Just imagine that, being with people.
Seriously. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
When you are, as you're sort of, enjoying, the good moments of quarantine, of pandemic life or whatever, how has your writing changed? Has it shifted or evolved over this season? I'm hearing that from a lot of writers, that's happening for them. How about you?
Yes, definitely. I feel like it has evolved. It's funny because I have to turn in all my songs that I write to my publisher, and they definitely have noticed that my songs are a lot more personal now than they ever were. And my songs have always been fairly personal, but I think now, just after a year of reflection and spending a lot of time just alone or with my husband, like, I just think there's so much value in authenticity and vulnerability. And so I feel like my songs are definitely just going to a place where they haven't gone before, where I'm like, man, this is really hard and this is what I'm going through. But man, I found God so much in the middle of it. And I think people are starting to resonate with that. And I resonate with that when I hear a song by an artist and I'm like, I know exactly how they feel. And that's how I feel. And I don't feel so alone anymore. I think in a time when we were all so isolated and just felt so alone, to be reminded that we're not the only one that feels that way. Like, the enemy loves to isolate us and tell us that we are completely on our own in how we're feeling or what we're going through. But I've found that when I write about those things and I share them with others, they're like, man, I feel the same way. So I feel like that's been the major change in my writing, of just being willing to go there and talk about things that are hard, and always bringing it back to God and how I'm finding him in it. But just trying to be a little bit more vulnerable with people that hear my music and hoping to meet them where they are as well.
That's perfect.
As far as your career is concerned, like, what has that meant for artists that rely on concerts and gigs to pay the bills? What has the last year been like for you? Because you're limited in what you can actually do.
Yeah, at first it was really stressful. Just the thought of, this is our major source of income and now we can't do it. Because my husband's also a musician and we go on the road together. So he plays guitar for me and we sing together and he does my merchandise. And so pretty much everything we do together. And so for us to not be able to go on the road was like, this is going to be scary. But it wasn't. And looking back at 2020, like, we cannot even explain how faithful God has been to us in so many ways. Like, whether it was somebody sending us a check in the mail and saying, hey, we're just thinking about you guys, like, we want to bless you, here's some money, and it was exactly what we needed. Or I don't know, it's just been over and over, God has provided for us this year, and it hasn't been anything that we've done. I think God's taught me so much this year about surrender and about how, like, he's going to honor and bless us if we're doing what we're called to do. And it's not dependent on me if God is faithful. Like, he is faithful all the time. And yeah, it's just been crazy learning to trust God in a new way this year, knowing that I had no shows lined up, that everything was canceled, that I had no music coming out. I didn't know where the money was going to come from, but we survived and we made it through. And every month we had everything we needed and then some. So it's just been a big faith builder for us. The other thing that was a huge blessing is my husband got connected with a website where he did remote vocals and production. So cool. That was huge for us as well. Just the fact that he was able to still make music and still do tracks and still sing and everything. And we were able to make money through that as well. So that was a blessing for sure. But man, it's just like God provided everything we needed. And it's such a faith builder even for now. Like, we're trying to buy a house right now. And I don't know what the market is like for you guys up there, but in Nashville, it's the craziest home buying market that has ever happened. Like, it is so wild. We've put in 15 offers on houses. Every house that we've offered on has had at least 15 other offers. And so it's just been crazy. And there's so much like, man, God, are you going to come through for us? Like, are we going to get a house like we thought you promised we would? But then it's like, I look back at 2020 and see that he provided everything I needed just when I needed it. And so for now, I'm looking to the future of hoping for this house and hoping for things that are coming and realizing that God was faithful then and he's going to be faithful now. I don't have to worry about a thing. Like, I just have to trust him. So yeah, it's just the past of God's faithfulness definitely helps me to be trusting him and not to worry in this place that I'm in now.
I will say the housing market in Toronto has been pretty crazy as well. And multiple offers and ending up selling for higher than the original asking price, that sort of scenario.
It's crazy.
And then the flip side is I'm hearing on the news about the fact, I'm not sure if this is for residential or commercial, but I'm hearing how rent is going down because there's a lot, I guess it would be more the commercial side of things because companies are not necessarily downsizing in people, but downsizing in office space because more and more people are working from home. And so that's driving the prices of rent down because now they've got empty buildings or empty office space.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yes, it's just wild to see. Like I should have, bought shares in Zoom or one of these companies way back when
I know.
Had I known.
We're all kicking ourselves for not buying shares in Zoom.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but the world has certainly changed. And I think I've mentioned this to you, Drew, where I have really liked the people that have been forced upon or organizations that have been forced upon to adapt to technology. Companies, maybe it's a retail space where they were never online before, but now they are because they have to be. Or even churches where previously all they offered was, Sunday services in person, but they were forced to now adapt and provide online services where they never did that before. So it's a big learning curve for them with technology and equipment and all that stuff. Whether they pre-record or do live, like all of that stuff has been a learning curve for churches in particular. And companies being able to adapt where, at the radio station, I'm practically one of the only people that are physically here in the building. Everybody else is working from home. So we've got other software that we've adapted to use in the company so that we can still communicate with each other and get the job done.
Yeah. Man, it's so crazy how much we've had to be flexible and just learn new skills. And yeah, it's been wild. I never was a Zoom writer ever. Like I always was like, I have to write in person. We have to create together. Like you got to get the vibe in the room. But man, some of my best songs this year have come out of Zoom writing. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why that is. I just feel like everyone's just hungry for that. They're hungry for connection and creating things. And yeah, I don't know, but it's definitely been a learning curve. So it's crazy how much we've been able to adapt to the new way of life.
I'm still hungry for the in-person stuff. Like I understand the technology and the advantage in this time that we're living in, but the in-person thing, I remember this was probably last summer when, there were still restrictions in place where I live, and I decided to meet up with a friend of mine. So we ended up going to the coffee shop, grabbing something to drink, but we couldn't actually physically sit in the coffee shop because of the restrictions. So we went to a local park just to walk around. And I felt a little bit at odds because I didn't know how to I almost didn't know how to have a face-to-face conversation anymore.
Yeah.
Because I think we've lost that ability to a certain extent because we've all been online for so long that now you're face-to-face. And whether, you're using email technology where you're just corresponding back and forth and you say what you need to say in an email and then you hear the response back 10 minutes later or 2 days later or whatever. But now you're face to face and you can't hide facial expressions. You can't hide the inflections in your voice. And what do you talk about? It just kind of felt weird. Really weird.
It's so true. Yeah. It's so true. My cousins, they were passing through Nashville. They were going to a wedding. and they were here this past weekend. And it was so funny because we would all be talking and then we would interrupt each other without meaning to. And we were talking about like, are we just so used to talking on Zoom now that we don't know how to talk to each other in real life? Like, It was so funny. Jason, my husband, was like, oops, sorry, I thought your mic was muted. Like, it's just so funny. It's like, I hope that I can regain my people skills when everything is normal again.
If you had a choice now, like if you were able to do a co-write verse, in Zoom, or if you had the choice and you had the ability to be able to meet in person, I guess in person would still be the way to go, right?
Yes. Oh, definitely. It's definitely so much easier to write a song when you're in the room with other people. Totally. I think Zoom has worked and we've made it work, and I'm really grateful for that. But yeah, there's nothing like being in a room with other people and getting to worship and sing and create together. Like there's no substitute for that.
I have a friend of mine who's also a musician here in the city, and I haven't seen him face to face since I think the fall. We did like a little outdoor hang together. Wow. And we're talking on the weekend how we want to get back to writing together. We used to write together all the time. And I was like, I'm afraid to actually sit in a room and write with you because I think I just want to hug you the whole entire time. Like, I miss people. I miss even that sense of like being creative together is such a cool and bonding and intimate thing. I'm like, I just want to, is this a snuggle? He's like, what?
I just want to snuggle.
He's like,
somebody put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah. That's actually a great t-shirt. I just want to snuggle. That's a great t-shirt. You heard it here, folks. You heard it here first.
There we go.
All royalties come to the three of us. Thank you.
That's right.
Done and done.
Oh man.
Yeah, this is a crazy season. Really, really crazy. I am curious as to like as you are creating and thinking about the future, are you also kind of thinking about like getting out of the business? Is there any part of you that's kind of like, okay, so let's pretend this doesn't happen anymore. I want out. What would I do? Is there any part of you that's sort of on that tangent at all?
I mean, I think at the beginning of all this, when we were wondering if it ever would be normal again, everyone had to have that thought of just like, what would I do if I couldn't do this? But no, I feel like this is where God has me right now, and this is what I'm going to do. You know, music is what He's given me in this season, so I'm full steam ahead. But if I were to do something else, I know that it would still somehow involve music, whether it's just like being on staff at a church or, leading worship full time at a local church or something. I feel like I would still do music in some way. Growing up, I always wanted to be a teacher. But now the older I've gotten, the more I'm like, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could have like 25 7-year-olds and have to be responsible for all of them. Like, oh, that sounds a little scary now. But yeah, I mean, lots of people in the pandemic were like, okay, now I guess I'm like a food delivery driver, or I guess I'm working at a hair salon, or, all these things that we never thought we would do. And now we're doing them. Like there were so many times I was like, should I be a ship shopper? Do you guys have that in Canada? Ship shopping?
I thought you said something else.
Are you like a
excuse me?
Like a personal shopper? Like a personal shopper?
Like someone who goes to Kroger for you and gets your groceries and then drops them off at your door.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
But,
yeah.
Man, it's just crazy. I feel like, I really would love to do music as long as I can. But if I had to do something else, hopefully it would still involve music in some way. It's pretty much all I'm good at. Like, I'm not athletic. I'm not really artistic in any other way. So this is all I got going for me.
My 17-year-old daughter is technically a personal shopper. She works at a grocery store. And can I tell you, they have never been busier. In fact, whenever there's a lockdown or they increase the number of restrictions that are being had, they just get busier and busier and busier. And for a 17-year-old, I mean, she shows up for work and many times she's the boss, like she's in charge because she's the most experienced. She picks the order. Now, the particular grocery store that she works for, they don't do deliveries. You have to go and pick up your order. But I mean, there's basically 3 job functions: an order picker, which she is amazing at. In fact, she knows, like, I'll ask her, where can I find peanut butter? What aisle is it in? She'll know exactly what aisle it's in. I don't know where it is. I just look for the signs, right? She knows where everything is. And then she's also the person once in a while, although she doesn't do it very often now, where she's the loader. Well, she'll load up people's vehicles. And then every once in a while she'll be on phones where, people are calling for their appointments, or she's calling them and saying, we're ready with your order. Are you ready outside? That sort of scenario.
Wow.
So there's certain jobs that people have in the world around us now that maybe weren't around a year ago, or at least not as prevalent. And then the flip side to that is there's many jobs, I'm sure, that are now obsolete. And you would almost think that was happening in the music world. Like we had a conversation with, was it Matty Mullins, Drew, that we had the conversation with, where he was saying, forget the musicians, forget about the artists. What about all of these secondary jobs that are within the industry, that these guys that are, the lighting guys or whatever, that do not have jobs right now. Yeah. And it'll be a while before they do again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, it's just like, even in Nashville, we have so many historic venues here that are not arenas. Like, they're just little clubs or whatever that have gone out of business this year. And that is just so sad, because they're so iconic and legendary, like places that you've really made it in Nashville country music if you've played at these places. Yeah. And that's just really sad. Like, I think a lot of Nashville, the community has tried to come together to pool resources and try to keep these places in business. But man, it's just it's not just the artists and musicians. It's everybody that's involved in the music industry has been affected by this, and probably more than an artist ever would be, because we can make, income from all different revenue streams. But for a crew member or a lighting person, like, how else can they do their job, if we're not on the road? So yeah, it's been tough in the music industry just across the board. Like, it's been crazy.
Are you at the point now for you personally where things are optimistic enough that you can be booking gigs, be booking concerts or worship times with, whether it be churches or actual, summer festivals as a good example? Like, I'm dying for the summer festivals to kick in again. Are they coming to fruition at this point?
They are at the moment. I had stuff that was booked in 2019 for 2020, and then obviously got canceled for the summer. But then it got rebooked for 2021. So it's been on the books since last year. But of course, we had no idea, will any of these summer festivals even happen? But it seems like a lot of them actually are going to happen. It's just outdoors, and maybe we have to do like 2 shows instead of 1. So that people can be more distant and everything. But it does look like some of the shows this summer are going to be able to happen, which I'm hopeful for. And it seems promising, but you just never know. Like, things can get canceled so quickly if things get shut down, or if we go in another lockdown or anything. But yeah, I'm hopeful for this summer. I feel like there's going to be some good outdoor concerts that are going to get to happen. And then maybe in the fall, touring in churches, like socially distant and all that. But I just don't even know what that's going to look like. I'm not used to a road life that involves the pandemic. Like, I haven't really done any touring this year. So I don't know what that's going to look like, but at least I know there is some hope moving forward, like looking to the future, that we will be back out there and we will be doing what we're made to do and what we're hoping to do. So I'd like to be
optimistic enough to say that in the not too distant future that you'll have the opportunity, or in general, there'll be the opportunity to minister in churches without being socially distant.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It would be the nicest.
Yeah. Like if they're ramping up, vaccines like they're talking about, and their goal is to have everybody vaccinated within a region by a certain date, then what's to stop the restrictions being dropped? And,
right.
I'm not against vaccines. I'm not one of these anti-vaxxers or anything like that. Yeah. But I'm also thinking, when will life get back to normal? Like, give me some light at the end of the tunnel, Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Yes, I'm with you. I do feel like there will be some normalcy restored. Like, I do feel like that is coming. It may just take longer than we thought. I mean, at the beginning of the pandemic, when we started hearing about COVID, we thought, it'll be like a month, we didn't even think it would affect our wedding. Here we are over a year later, and, things have changed, but not much in all this time. Like, it's just been a lot slower than we thought.
I think I gave it 6 months. I had somebody ask me on air, how long did I think it would take? And I said about 6 months, because I was, I've lived through the whole, was it the SARS before and the N1H1 and previous stuff. I actually worked for a company back then that sold the respiratory masks, the N95 masks, and so that's how come I remember those times so well, because you couldn't get these masks; they were always sold out, right?
Right.
And so I remember one time, and this was a number of years ago, where my family, we decided, and things were opening up. They didn't have as many restrictions back then, but things were opening up in downtown Toronto. I went to an area called the Beaches just because, hey, let's just go and see what's happening. And the place was vacant. Like there was nobody there except for a neighborhood kid who walked around and he had a mask on. And I thought, I thought we were over this, And so I'm looking forward to the day where, we don't have to worry about masks. We'll all be immune, or there'll be this herd immunity, as they say, or we're all vaccinated, or whatever it takes. Let's just get
all these terms that I did not know a year ago: herd immunity, quarantine, social distancing. It's like they're so much a part of our dialogue now. But man, a year ago I did not know about them.
Like I only knew about them through zombie movies or like quarantine type movies. Right? That's it.
You're like, man, that'll never happen.
I never thought I'd be wearing a mask.
I know, me either. I remember at the beginning of all this thinking it was so weird to talk to somebody when you're both wearing a mask. Like, man, it's just so bizarre. And now I catch myself not even noticing if they have it on or not. Like that is a weird mental shift. Where you're like, man, I just had that whole conversation with them and I don't know if they were wearing a mask or not.
Right.
Like, it's just so bizarre. How can our minds change so fast? It's just crazy.
The one thing that Drew, of course, you can relate to this, is when you wear a mask, you don't have to worry about the lipstick anymore, right?
That's right. Yeah. I only do my makeup on the top half my face.
Right.
Top half my face. My eyes look amazing.
Your eyes look amazing.
Boom. They do.
Oh,
but like after the makeup from the nose down, not there. Why bother?
Not there.
The thing is
why bother?
Who would know you even have a beard, right?
Well, this is the thing.
Wow.
And now I have a new mask that goes all the way down to like almost the bottom of my neck.
Yeah.
So my beard doesn't get messed up, because the beard look is very important to me, obviously.
Very important. Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Heather. So Hannah, so here's the thing. So here we are now with you can see my makeup, see my eyes, right? I look good, right?
I look good. I really wish I could.
I'll text you a picture. Hold on.
I didn't know we were quite going there. I was just, just a quick comment and yeah.
No.
Too much information. Yeah.
This is my pandemic routine, my friend. I gotta look good for no one, apparently.
For no one.
And
all dressed up and nowhere to go.
Well,
nowhere to go. That's right.
And speaking of being dressed up, look at all the money that's being saved on clothes in general, right? Because everybody's wearing their PJs, right?
That's true.
I'm wearing the same 5 pairs of leggings all the time.
Same. Not leggings.
Same.
Can I be?
I'm too chubby for leggings.
Can I be brutally honest right now? Can I be brutally honest?
Aren't we already being brutally honest?
We are. So a number of weeks ago, things were opening up in Toronto, and they were opening up the malls and some of the stores inside the malls. And as soon as they did that, the malls were packed. I mean, the government people were basically saying, look, folks, let's not go nuts and just pack out all the malls. But and I wasn't one of them. I'll say that. But I certainly can relate to why they were packed, is because they were all shut down for so long. And as an example, like I've got these jeans on. These are my favorite jeans, and I've got a hole in an area that I wouldn't want. I can't say where it is, but
say it.
But it's in an area that I wouldn't want people to be looking at and
ankle.
Notice. And sure, if that's what you want to say,
those sexy ankles, yeah, baby.
It's in an area where I would not want people to notice as a whole. And
the undercarriage.
And thank you. And so I can't. So I can't order jeans online. I'm sorry. Like you got to try them on. And so I would have been first in line at this store to buy these jeans. And of course, then everybody packs them all. So I'm kind of waiting. I actually called the store. I said, so, if I show up to your store, is there a lineup? They said, oh yeah, as soon as we open, there's an hour long lineup for people to get in the store.
What?
Yeah. So
That is wild.
Yeah. So I thought, well, let me just wait a few weeks, and then they shut everything down again. So so I'm wearing these jeans. So
you missed your jean window.
I missed my jean window. But I guess what I'm saying is people haven't been shopping for certain things as much because of lockdowns and restrictions. And so that's been a cost savings for people because they're wearing their PJs or they're wearing their leggings or whatever else. They only have to worry about the shirt they're wearing because of Zoom, so they look decent for that. But otherwise, I'm sure that there's been, declining sales in certain areas, not just clothing, but other areas as well. I know people that are working from home, as an example, they're not driving their vehicles as much. They're saving on gas.
Yes,
a lot of them are taking their insurance off their vehicles temporarily because they're not driving.
Exactly.
I will say this, though, and I'm not a car expert, but I have a car guy coming on my show in the morning show every once in a while. And he said the concern he's seeing, or what he's seeing now, is as people do get into their vehicles are getting expensive to overhaul and fix because of the things that have happened to the vehicle because they haven't been driven. Right?
That makes sense. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, that's very true.
But for the short term, they're saving on gas, they're saving on insurance. And so a lot of this stuff is going to be, different as people come back to work and stuff. It's going to be like, more expenses again, or people all of a sudden buying a bunch of clothes that they didn't have to before,
Yeah.
So
new wardrobe.
Yeah.
There it is.
I don't know how we got into this, but
back to the hole in your pants. So have you thought
come on, we're beyond that.
Have you thought about maybe like crossing your legs when you sit down? That way no one can actually see the hole.
I never did. You
have options.
Yeah.
Come on,
Drew. I don't think I ever indicated where the hole was. I think you kind of assumed and
you said you didn't want anybody to know, or can we rewind the tape, please? Rewind the tape. Let's hear it.
Well, for argument's sake, let's just say it's the ankle, like Hannah said.
Oh, okay. That's
the ankle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey,
when I was that right up.
When I was a kid. I grew up in a poor family. There's a song about that. But when I was a kid, it was actually okay to put patches on jeans. The jean patch or whatever.
Totally.
I don't think that's a fashion statement these days. Not that I'm trying to be a fashion statement, but, maybe I'll have to put a patch.
I am a fashion icon.
Yeah, not me. Not me.
You're an influencer like me, brah.
Yeah.
You know what?
Let's go back to that.
I don't... Yeah. Influencer. I don't like that term anyways. I think there's too many people that make a living on this term influencer, and all they do is, get a bunch of people following them on Instagram, and that makes them an influencer, and so they can make money doing that. Really?
It's so bizarre. I'm like,
it is bizarre.
Really is.
It's a bizarre way to make a living is what I'm thinking, and long term. Like I look at anything that you do, whether you're an artist or a musician or a guy that works in radio like me, what is your long-term objective? What is your long-term job? And I don't see an influencer being this quote unquote influencer being a long-term gig for anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's just, I know we're way off topic. Sorry. Okay.
I'm with you. I'm here.
So back to Hannah, because Hannah's our guest today.
Yes.
I am?
Thank
you guys.
Yeah. Surprise. Oh, Hannah's back, folks. She's back.
Yeah, should we get started on the podcast?
Should we get started? There we go.
That's right.
So let's talk new music, because obviously it's questionable as far as, when you'll actually be performing, on a regular basis and concerts and whatever else. But certainly new music, that can't stop you from, nothing can stop new music from coming down. You've got a new single that's on the radio now. We're playing it. What else is on the horizon?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so like I said before, I've written a lot of songs in the past year, more than I've ever written before, like just creating every day. And so before the pandemic hit, I had this whole 5-song EP that I was going to add to my Listen More EP that I released in 2019. And it was going to be a full album. But I've written so many songs this year, and I feel like I've just come so far from where I was then that I'm just making a whole new album. So Same God, my single that I just put out, is going to be the first song off of that upcoming album. So I have no idea when that's being released, but I am really excited about it. Like, the songs are just songs that I would listen to as a listener. And I've always liked Christian music. Like, I've always been a fan of it. But I feel like for the first time, I'm creating music that I'm excited about in a way that I haven't been before. So hopefully that will be coming out, I think, in 2021 at some point. But
is the album finished? Really have you finished recording and everything?
No, I haven't actually recorded anything yet, except for Same God. Right. So it's a wide open thing right now. But I just have I've been listening through the songs just to see what we'll probably end up cutting, and it's exciting. It's an exciting thing with just a blank canvas to create something new. So I'm excited.
That's cool. If you need any hand, I know somebody at a record label. Just as a
cool.
It's a thought.
I'll send you every song. Listen through the whole thing.
Yeah,
perfect.
Actually, I'd love that. I'm being serious now. If you want to send me all the songs, I'd love to listen. I'd love getting these advanced listens on. One of the perks of my job is being able to do that. So
yeah, that's true.
Anytime you want to do that, I'll have a listen for sure.
All right, sounds good.
There you go. Well, listen, Hannah, thanks so much for hanging with us once again on Between the Grooves. That was a fun conversation. Great to see how really the negative pandemic thing has not necessarily been a negative thing for you, like the way you've approached it and the way things have come down for you. That's you talked about surrendering and trusting God and trusting His faithfulness and whatnot, and that is, I guess, all you can do in this day and age, and to embrace it, and by embracing it, have a great year.
Yeah. I feel like God really has taught me a lot about perspective this year, of just there's always going to be good and bad in any season, and we can choose to focus on the bad, or we can choose to focus on the good and believe that He's making something good out of everything. So yeah, it really has been a good year, and I feel really blessed, everything that's happened. So thanks for letting me share it with you guys. This was great.
Oh, Hannah, that was just so much fun. And it felt like a catch up. It felt like, you know what I mean? It felt like a catch up conversation rather than a podcast episode.
Yeah. I mean, we were goofing around a lot.
Yeah.
But we can do that with Hannah. And
totally.
But yet there's some serious stuff that we talked about too.
Yeah.
Talking about the surrender and trusting in God and His faithfulness. And it's such a timely message given, the last year that everybody's been through, whether you're in the music business or not. And so just to see how she has adapted and how that has impacted her life and her marriage and everything else, looking at the positive elements to all of it, because it's so easy to look at negative stuff, but now looking at the positive side of what's happened and transpired over the last year for her is awesome.
It's so good. I'm always thankful that we can chat with artists like her, and it was great to hear about her marriage and what's happening in her home life, and what's happening with her musically, and how she's shifting in her writing, it coming out more personal and more intimate. Yeah, it just felt like a really great catch-up conversation. This is good. I like when we can have these repeat guests come back and we can chill and hang out and talk over coffee. I'm thankful for this conversation with Hannah Kerr.
Yeah, make sure you check out hannahkerrmusic.com to find out the links to her music, all the events that are upcoming, and of course, her social media.
There we go. Now it's time for artist advice. And today we have my old friend, Jordan St. Cyr.
I get this question a lot, and I think it's continue to make it about people. That's why we create music. It is to serve them, not, it is therapy for us. It does serve our hearts, but I think we're the byproduct. If we do it for people and we make this earth a better place, we are serving them first, and out of that, we get fed.
Make it about people.
Makes sense.
Yeah. It was
good.
It was interesting what he had to say about the fact that it's kind of therapy for you as an artist, but remembering to make it about people. Just and his comment about making the earth a better place. It doesn't sound like a very Christian or religious thing to say, but really it is. It is when you think about it, right? Because you're serving God, you're writing music, you're producing music, and you're doing it for yourself, but you have to remember you're doing it for others as well.
That's right. Whether you are writing for worship in the church, or whether you're writing like CCM pop tunes, we are creating these incredible little musical lifeboats for people, you know, these little spots for safety and for comfort and for celebration and for remembering, you know, the God that we serve, all these things. And so it's always with the people in mind. We're always trying to create something that can really, really connect to people. And yeah, obviously you want it to connect to yourself. So it is. It is therapy. It definitely is.
How many times have you seen in the past where maybe you've written a song, or, you know, you've heard an artist write a song, and then you hear the story behind that song, and it's so meaningful on what they've gone through and why they created what they created. But then to hear after the fact about other stories from people that can relate to that song, but their stories are completely different.
Yes.
And I know Jordan has had that in our conversation that we had with him, I guess it was last year on Between the Grooves, where he talked about just that, where he had written a song and this is what the song was written about and what it meant to him. And then he's hearing comments from other people that are relating to the song in totally different ways. And it's so meaningful for them in different ways that he never even imagined. So, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Great words of wisdom from Jordan St. Cyr. And that is it for this week. We are out of time.
Oh my goodness.
There's the music. It's time for us to go. Remember to subscribe to the podcast for new episodes every Monday. And do us a favor, leave us a rating, even a review. That just helps us reach more people all the time.
And you can find us on Facebook and Twitter at Between Grooves. Connect with us, follow us, you know, all that kind of stuff. We'd love to see you there on those platforms. And we'll see you later right here on Between the Grooves.